evening, everybody. A couple of words about me. I'm a consultant, self-employed. I have my own company. As the name might suggest, I'm Italian, but in fact I'm living in Germany since 18 years. And basically what I do is well, training, consulting, coaching, mentoring in the area of Agile software development. And as I was passing anyway here for business reasons, then I said, okay, why not? Why not have a meetup? And they accepted it, so why not? And the idea is, what about talking a little bit large-scale Scrum? What happens when Scrum in one team is actually a fairly known thing? Well, not by everybody, but there are enough people knowing how to run Scrum with one team. How do we run a much bigger organization with Scrum? What do we do? What are the options? Now, the biggest project I worked today, it was something like 2,000 people on 13 different locations worldwide. And I tell you, it's a challenge to get it done properly. Nothing strange. But what are the interesting patterns, the interesting things we could use to actually get a project like that? And this is what I would like to tell you about tonight. And the first part will be more on presentation, some impulses from my side. Then afterwards we can discuss your questions and see, what you would like to ask. First of all, what type of audience do I have here? Who of you are programmers? Raise a hand if you are. Who of you are Scrum Masters, product owners? Okay. Who of you are managers, project managers, line managers? A few of you raised the hand same time several times. Interesting. But not uncommon, in fact. Other roles? Anything I haven't covered?
Business side.
Startup founder? Startup founder, so you are everything in life. Good.
I'm similar.
Sorry?
I'm similar. Business side.
Good. So, what do we do with large-scale Scrum? Okay. The presentation is not research at all. These are some pieces of some course material, but in fact it will be mostly, it will be mostly something that we do a flip chart and so on. So let's have a look at what happens when we do Scrum on a larger scale. Now, a lot of the things I'm going to tell you tonight are related to the so-called LeSS framework, coming from Craig Lauman and Bas Vodden. And they have developed this framework since something like 2006, 2007. And implemented quite a lot of companies. And this is one of the ways of scaling Agile. There are some others. You might have heard Scale Agile Framework, for example, SAFE, which is probably even more popular than LeSS. However, in general, I find LeSS much more leaner and much more interesting for small to medium and also in some cases big companies than Scale Agile Framework. And I would like to just drive you through the main concepts of the framework. The first thing is, when we talk about large scale, let me show you first a take from Craig Lauman and Bas Vodden on large scale. So large scale, don't do it. Multi-site, don't do it. Offshore, don't do it. They're going to be anyway worse than local teams. They're going to be anyway suboptimal things compared to what you can have if the teams are running locally. However, they say, anyway, you're going to do that anyway. So what can we do to make it work anyway, here in that case? Let's have a look at what are the main concepts we have to consider. I assume you're all familiar with single team Scrum here, right? So the first thing is large scale Scrum is Scrum. So the idea is there are some advantages, some active principles of Scrum that we want to maintain even at scale. Now, what are the advantages? What are the active principles of Scrum? Tell me. Oh, I forgot to tell you. This is going to be interactive.
Transparency, inspection, and adaptation.
Transparency, inspection, adaptation. So you want to have these things. what are the active principles? Why does Scrum help you in projects? What is bringing you? Transparency is good, but transparency doesn't really help, or it might help to get the final product, but it's not the reason why we do Scrum.
Predictability.
Sorry?
Predictability.
Predictability, yeah, not really. Actually, Scrum is not really optimized for predictability.
Value.
Scrum is optimized to be able to follow the needs of your product so we can deliver the maximum value. It's not the way to deliver the maximum value, but to deliver the maximum possible value by staying flexible and follow the change of requirement. The active principle here is anyway, deliver every sprint. So remember the nice package with the potential reachable product you have at the end of every sprint. This is one characteristic that you want to try and keep as much as you can also at scale. So with Scrum, the organization learned to deliver every sprint. Can we try to get it also in a bigger implementation, large implementation of Scrum? If you don't do that, it's not Scrum anymore. It doesn't really help you anymore. So this is one interesting concept. What about the product owner at scale? How do we handle the product owner? Scrum says every team has a product owner. What do we do if we have 50 teams? Do we get 50 product owners? Do we get one?
You have to have like a master product owner.
You need to have like a master product owner, yes, but how many product owners do you actually need? How do you?
It depends on the need.
Depends on the need, yeah, sure. What are the characteristics? So how do you decide whether you need 50 or you need 1 or you need 10 or what?
They need to be able to respond to the needs of the team. As long as one can respond to all the needs of the team, you can help. When you need more, you scale.
That's exactly the interesting idea. So if you consider many teams, it's not that every team has its own product owner. Remember, the fundamental concept of a product owner is PO means product owner. And this is, for some organization, fairly surprising, and I see some very confused faces right now also here. PO means product and owner, not a part of product owner, not sub-subsystem owner, not sub-subsystem analyst. So when we consider the necessity of a large product, it's still one product, so there should be one product owner as much as possible. Of course, we have a problem with bandwidth, so if we have 50 teams, we cannot have one product owner running 50 teams. But having 50 product owners, it means that there will be not really product owner, there will be subsystem owner, and there will be probably not even owner because it will have to follow the needs, the direction, and the will of somebody else. So if we scale the product owner role as one product owner per team, we are going to have neither product, neither owner. Okay? We could have a way to do it where we have sub-product owner in some way, but I'll tell you a little bit more about how it works shortly. So product owner scale is actually one of the concerns. How do we get a potentially shippable product is also a concern. So we should deliver every sprint, and we should have a structure at the product owner level that supports us to do it. The third problem we want to solve is interworking teams. So I'm working in a team, we have a piece of product to develop, no problem. And he's working on another team, has also a piece of product to develop, but unfortunately they are part of the same product in a big organization. How do these two fit together? How do we connect with each other? How do we work together? So this is a third problem that we have to solve, and we have to in some way to care when we consider product owner scale. Now, as I said, there are several ways of solving this problem, and I'm going to show you the way the large-scale Scrum solves it. And the basic idea is, something you can find on a website called LeSS.works, which is where you find basically the basic picture that I have here. The idea is we have several teams working on the same product, and product means a set of things that are related to one deliverable, to something that we do as we sell as one product. The definition of a product in LeSS is actually a fairly crucial thing and not that intuitive. The idea is we have several teams working together. There is going to be one product owner, and this product owner is going to deal with assigning priority, deciding on the priorities. The only problem is, with one product owner and several teams, how do we do sprint planning? Well, we do it in two phases. You see there is sprint planning 1 and 2. In phase 1, what we do is representative of each team, or if we don't have too many teams, also the whole teams, they get together and they decide who takes what. So we go in the priority defined by the product owner, the priority 1, the priority 2, the priority 3, and so on. Okay? And every team takes a part. Now, this is not a full planning, it can be adjusted afterwards. This is a kind of a pre-allocation of who is doing what. The criteria, well, the criteria will be decided between product owner and team. It will be some kind of uniformity of topics, whatever you need to get the things done in the most efficient way. After you've done this pre-allocation, off you go. You go into a team meeting where the teams discuss and they organize themselves, and they actually do the sprint planning phase 2, which is where they effectively prepare the sprint backlog and they plan the sprint backlog. Please note there is going to be one product backlog for this entire unit, okay? And there are going to be several sprint backlogs, one per team. After you do that, it's sprint as usual. However, you might need some coordination between teams. So this is represented by this kind of work where, for example, these two teams happen to work together. So here there is coordination, but maybe they have to work a little bit more together. Now, compared to other scaling frameworks, LeSS doesn't tell you how to do this coordination. You assume that you have a few teams who can talk to each other and you can do that. And if not, you will have to learn. And this is where the Scrum Masters will start working. Then you reach the end of the sprint. At the end of the sprint, you have a sprint review done on one common product. So this is going to be okay. And then you're going to have retrospectives. First within the team, and then one overall retrospective. The idea is we have exactly the same structure as Scrum. We want to have an executable every sprint, at the end of every sprint. Just that we have that minimalistic addition more to get the team coordinated together. But as much as possible, the coordination is handled by the teams. If you compare it to, for example, Scale Agile framework, which is the mostly known structure and more different than all the scaling method to LeSS, you'll notice that there is a much thinner coordination. As a matter of fact, what we want to do is we want to try to get to simpler structure. So a very important concept to consider is scaling as a way to descale the organization. Apart for when we talk about scaling, let's say we have 1,000 developers in several different locations. We have big products. Do we need to scale on the whole organization? Actually, no. Can we actually try to get the organization simplified down, rationalizing the product, rationalizing the interfaces, defining independent products that can be marketed separately? And then, on these smaller products, on this smaller structure, create structure like this. So, scale only when you can't avoid it. Just because I have 1,000 people and, I don't know, 150 teams, it doesn't mean that I need to have scaling structure. It could be that they're working on 150 different things, and I don't need to scale. So the first consideration when doing scaling is, can I just avoid doing it as much as I can? Can I simplify my organization? Can I descale? Can I bring it down to something more modular, so I don't need to scale. Whatever I cannot do, fine, I will scale, and then I can have things like this. What you will find out is that you need much less scaling as you normally think. Concrete example, client of mine, 2 locations in Europe, about 25 teams overall between the 2 locations. The IT leader came to me and said, hey, we need to scale. Sure, let's have a look at the products. As a matter of fact, they had a lot of different products. They go online parallel. It's a website. They have, yes, indeed, a lot of products, but they are fairly independent and fairly separate products. We work on the interface, we work on the structure of the product, on the definition of what the products are. And now what they have is they have mostly single team Scrum, each of them driven by product owners. And in 2 cases, they have some blocks that they really cannot chunk into smaller pieces. One of 3 teams and one of 4, where they are scaling to a structure like this. So just because we have too many people, it doesn't mean that we need to have such a big infrastructure for scaling. We kept it as low profile as possible, as little scaling as possible, because scaling, we are seeing, might actually, it's hard to do anyway. Okay? So scaling, consider it as a way to try to first simplify the organization. The same way as most of you are programmers here, you know, it would be something like, let's create an incredibly complicated architecture for doing something that seems complicated. You first try to do a simple architecture, and then, in case, make it complicated afterwards if you really need to. Same thing here. However, you still have situations where this is just too small. How many teams can we have with one product owner and one product backlog? Well, it depends. Experience says, depends on the product, depends on the skills of the people, the skills of the product owner. The limitation here is the bandwidth available for a product from a product owner. So how much can the product owner support the team? And that is related also to how much the teams can work by themselves. So if you have a lot of mature teams who can take quite a lot of petty decisions by themselves, they can do a lot of analysis by themselves, then the product owner will just give it priorities, and maybe we don't need that much of bandwidth, product owner bandwidth per team. Some of the teams will be more needing and needing more support. Experience says 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams, you can fairly easily reach with one product owner. The maximum observed until now on the field is something like 8 teams with one product owner. That seems to be kind of the absolute maximum. So don't take it as it must be 8. It could be somewhere between 3 and 8. So the maximum that I've seen up to date was 4 teams. A colleague of mine saw 5. Craig Laumann and Bas Walden, they saw 8. That's the maximum reported until now. So obviously some projects are much bigger than that. So can we scale even more? Yes, absolutely. But then we come to the suggestion that came before, which is to have a hierarchy of product owners. Please remember, fundamental attitude in Scrum, we have one product owner. And that product owner decides where the product goes. Now, check a little bit what happens in the organization, but very often what we call product owner is not really a product owner. It's a business analyst, it's a kind of a proxy product owner, it's a kind of a, I don't know, project manager reflecting and having a product owner role, but not really defining the product and not really owning the decision on the product. What we want to have in already in Scrum actually, but also in LeSS, is to have one product owner really owning the product, really talking about decisions, priorities, where do we allocate the budget, how do we get a wonderful product. And then, if the organization is too big, then we cascade it and we have some product owner taking care of some areas of the product. Okay? Areas of a product could be, for example, on a website, could be one part of a website taking care of, say, user profiles. Okay? So areas that are kind of consistent from a type of work that you do, so that you can still bring it on with teams in parallel, but still they are kind of you can separate them, but they're still part of the same product, so we cannot really make them 2 distinct areas. And each of these structures with an area product owner is the same as what we've seen before. Just that now they are all coordinated together. What you want to have is still, you still need a sprint planning 1 and 2, and they are done at the area product owner level. You still need a sprint review that you do it at the area level, and you still want to have a working product in the end. Retrospectives, again, first separate and then together. So in a sense, every area works as a separate unit compared to the other. And the idea is that we develop in parallel. In this way, you can grow, you can scale to quite bigger teams. So, for example, the project I told you, 2,000 people in 13 different locations were actually using this scheme. And I was taking care of one location that was actually organized as one area. In fact, actually there were 2 areas because we had 8 teams and there were 4 and 4 teams of product development. Okay? Yeah.
There's one question that you didn't ask in the beginning, and that's if people here are from outsourcing organizations or from
Yes.
product organizations. And to which one are you mostly aiming here and you talk to people who are working in outsourcing organizations or product organizations? Because it's 2 different planets that don't have much in common.
Okay, if it's outsourcing a complete product, then there's not much difference between the 2. If outsourcing, it means that you will provide resources to some other teams and maybe doing pieces of a product, then the question is that an efficient model to work with? Now, the idea of, tell you what, I need 10 people, where do I find them? Oh, tell you, there is 1 person in Germany, 2 in Romania, 3 in India, 5 in somewhere else, and then you put together a project team. Honestly, it doesn't make that much sense. Sorry? If you are a small startup and you're doing that and you have a very personal relationship when you work with screen sharing, you can still do it. At the big organizational level where you have a lot of processes and so on, this becomes just a source of unneeded bureaucracy. Now, remember before, offshoring, don't do it. But companies will still be doing it anyway. The question is, why do you do offshoring? Why do you do outsourcing in general? My answer is, it's not just my answer, is if you do it because it's cheaper, then that's the wrong answer. The reason is, if you do outsourcing done properly, what it means is very likely you will have the product owner of your organization, the outsourcing partner, and they will have to meet face-to-face quite often. They will have to meet with the correspondent engineer on the other party. And if you want to do the things properly, it's going to cost a lot of money or travels. So outsourcing is not going to be cheaper. Plus, you need to grow where you're in the location where you're outsourcing, you need to grow the competencies, which means that you need to grow a team that is stable, that is maturing. And I'm not sure what happens in Romania, but for example in India, you keep the people for 1 year and then they go. It's just the standard practice there because they want to get advance in career and in salary and so on. Plus, you might start in a country because it's cheaper, and then in 5 years from now, if you have a lot of requests, the salaries will go up and they are not cheap anymore. So why should you do outsourcing? Because you can't find enough competencies in your country. Try to be in Germany and hire engineers, you can't. Then it makes sense to build an outsourcing center, but then, what would be the most efficient way to do it? What if my outsourced center is not just delivering resources to my project, but taking charge of an area? And then they are local. So with this model, you could say this part here is local, Romania, another part is in Germany, another part is in Great Britain. There is one product owner who gives the goals, but every area is consistent, and you try to have it working as local as possible. So, how is this message targeted to outsourcer? Well, try to rationalize, try to have not outsourcing, but competence centers, where people are handling their own part of our products, and they also grow competence on that. That is a much healthier way to do it than just getting resources with them. Okay? It's much more respectful of professionality of the people, actually, right? Because working in conference call the whole day is not really that great anyway. Okay?
Where does the team commitment gets to be done? Where does the team say, yes, I commit to this, or no, I don't commit to this?
First of all, in Scrum there is no commitment anymore, it's a forecast.
No, don't confuse
Yeah.
estimation with forecast. Team commitment. The team, when the team locks the sprint backlog and say, okay, this is what we go forward with.
There is a point in time where you say, guys, this is our sprint, and we say, fine, this is the sprint, this is our sprint backlog.
Yes, but what?
That's not a commitment anymore. That has been descaled a little bit in forecast. It's a small change in terminology, even Scrum Guide. The commitment happens, what you call commitment, the forecast happens in sprint planning 2. Sprint planning 1 you cannot really, because let's suppose you have 5 teams working together. There is a product owner meeting with some representative of each team. Then the representative cannot really commit on something because they haven't spoken with their colleague.
Exactly.
Sprint planning phase 2, they go back in their teams, there they discuss, they will see, yes, that fits, no, that doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, then there will be a negotiation back and forth among teams. What happens is what you do, the best possible setup of this is,
I mean, who negotiates? Who are the sides?
let me explain you what happens. The way you want to do this is, you happen to have a room, okay? And in this room, you happen to have the various teams. That's a quick first setup for these type of things. So the representative meet, they define kind of what the sprint is going to be. Then you go in this environment, and then you discuss your sprint planning, and you're all together as a PO happens to be there available. So whenever you start doing sprint planning phase 2 and you realize that not everything fits, you have a product owner available, you can solve a problem immediately. The product owner might call another team, can we swap stories, can we discuss, can we rearrange? You do it at the team planning, sprint planning
So
phase 2.
sprint planning 1 and 2
Sprint planning 1,
happen almost at the same time?
yes,
So very close to.
they are one after the other. Sprint planning phase 1 is just, I'll take this, you
Like in
take
the
that.
Scrum Guide. Like in the Scrum Guide.
Like the Scrum.
Okay.
Remember, large scale Scrum is Scrum. That's one of our major principles. We don't want to create useless complexity on top. So once you are in an environment like this and you are all very close to each other, you can talk, then there's no problem in saying, fine, sorry, team A, hey, problem, we have, we just, our backlog just doesn't fit, we have too much to do, okay, can we see what can we rearrange, how can we do it? It's very flexible, very spontaneous, and it's up to the team in fact to decide. The product owner doesn't really care who will do what. The product owner wants that things get worked out in a certain order, and that's it. Okay? So either the team will take care of that by themselves, or they call the product owner, they discuss all together. Not a problem. Do whatever it's relevant for you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. The major problem, one of the major problems to solve is, however, the product owner at scale. So a major problem we have with product owners are that it's normally implemented in a very bad way. So I would say that a good 80% of the companies that I visit, where they have already a product owner, it's implemented wrongly. And the major reason for that is that the product owner is not an empowered person in single team Scrum. It's somebody who is supposed to drive the team, feed the team the requirements, but is neither seeing the whole product, nor it's an owner of what he or she does. And at scale, we have this problem at the bigger level, because now we have a product owner responsible for more teams at the same time. And we want a product owner who decides on things. So, major problem. What we have in several organizations. Let me put here one figure that I call product manager. Please don't be too picky on the name, because the name changes from company to company, so it's very difficult to identify with one particular label. And another figure that we call manager of IT. Okay, also there, please Don't be picky on the names because it might change on next time. Now, this is the person putting products, putting ideas in the pipeline. Hey, we need this and this and this and this to do. This is the person in companies, non-agile companies, or with bad product owner implementation, who have them to implement things. So this person is responsible for creating the pipeline, for managing the portfolio, or doing whatever is needed. This person instead is responsible for the execution. Now, how are these two guys earning their salaries and their bonuses? What are the requests from the organization, and how do, especially, what are the motivators of their work? Let's start from the right side because that's easier. What are the requests to the manager IT? How is the manager IT rated in companies usually?
He's able to fix the printer.
Well, IT manager, we talk about IT projects.
Development managers. See the
Development manager.
The one who runs the development teams and provides.
It's still IT, so I'm joking, it's just a joke.
So that guy gets his bonus, his or her bonus if what happens?
If the other guy is happy.
Sorry?
If the other guy is happy with his work.
Yeah, but what is the typical motivator actually? It's something different usually in a lot of companies. Is here is a project plan, execute that on time, on budget.
It's a stick.
Okay, sorry?
It's a stick. That one is a stick and that one is a carrot.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a stick. So here's the project plan. You have to execute that on time, on budget. This is a typical motivator. Now, what is the best way to make sure that you do things on time and budget?
Maybe scope.
Sorry? Measure. I heard it from down
Reduce
there.
scope.
This scope, less scope.
Reduce
The scope. So automatically, and not because they are lazy, but simply because of a request of the system, in order to make sure that they deliver on time and budget, these guys will start asking to do less. Okay? This has nothing to do with laziness, just that if I have too much to do and I have no way to deliver it, the best way is, please give me less to do and then I will be more reliable. Okay? What about the guy on the left? What are the motivators for the guy on the left?
Deliver more scope.
Deliver more scope, and simply the reason is that somehow on top there is a guy, a boss, who says, hey, we need to do more, we need to do more. So the motivator for this guy will be, or the mantra, will actually be more, more. Sounds like a conflict to me. So this guy will push to get more. This guy will push to stabilize everything and have less. So where do the two meet? Somewhere. If you have seen these things in Korean companies, what is the type of, what is the result of this discussion usually?
You're fired.
Oh no, because the guy on the right is very much needed. Yes, nothing happens, so he's not fired.
Nobody's on this.
Yeah, okay, but the next one will be the same.
They usually hire a project manager.
So that they can fire afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, in some companies, that's exactly what happens. What happens is they will find a compromise somewhere, which is the project plan we all commit to, but the point where they will meet is actually much more of a negotiation inside the company than reality. Whether this is feasible or not, that depends. If this guy has a lot of power, it will be an absurd thing what you will have there. If this guy has a lot of power, then nobody will be satisfied because the organization is not delivering enough. So this is a very typical configuration, which, by the way, I see very often when I'm seeing even Scrum teams. Just that the names here are different. So this might be the product owner, and this might be the business owner. Do you have such a profile? Raise the hand if you have it. Okay. This might be the proxy product owner, and this might be the product owner or the project manager at the client side. Okay. Raise the hand if you have it or if you see it. So there are several types of games like this. This game, if you get a solution, it's anyway a solution. It's anyway a compromise. This is, in game theory, this is known as a zero-sum theory. If this guy wins, this loses. If this guy wins, this loses. Okay? So this is implicitly, inherently, a competitive game. Competitive game means no win-win. It's not possible to win-win. Is there a solution? Yes, Scrum has a solution, which is, let's put these two roles together in one person. That is a person that on one side requests the things, on the other side is responsible for implementing it. If this person requests too much, he or she will not be able to implement everything. If he requests too little, waste resources. How do we call this person?
Multiple personality disorder.
Well, not really. In some cases, you probably have to in order to handle everything. Let's call it PO instead. This is actually the best possible definition you can have of a product owner. This is called the contract game. And the PO is the person who solves the contract game in an organization. Now, please check your product owners and tell me how many of your product owners are really resolving a contract game. Very few. Okay? And this is for me a big problem when we talk about Scrum in organization, and it becomes even more important when we talk about Scrum at scale. Reason, in this type of structure, very often you end up having one product owner per team, and then you scale it. But these product owners really don't have any power of deciding anything. They're really not empowered. They're really not resolving a contract game. So you have lots and lots of product owners very often, but they are not really neither product, neither owner. Totally, absolutely wrong. Okay? So, we have a few minutes still. The idea is, these are two structures for scaling. However, keep in mind one thing. Let's see, guess, why is Scrum so popular compared to Kanban, compared to other Agile methods? Why do you think it has expanded itself so much?
Consultancy.
Well, consultancy, but there are consultancies selling Kanban. I agree, consultancy might be a reason. I'm selling Scrum among other things. But you know, I might even sell Kanban. You know, there's even more market for Kanban. It's new, it's better. Okay? So for some reason, if everybody's selling Scrum, in principle, as a first thing, as a major product, that might be a good reason. Okay? So the market might be driven by consultant, but there must be more, because Scrum is by far the largest used Agile method.
They say you deliver faster with Scrum.
Actually, now I'll tell you what. That's one thing that a lot of people misunderstand. Scrum is not optimized for cost, is not optimized for faster delivery, it's optimized for flexible delivery. Delivering adaptively value. That's not just Scrum, that's most of the Agile method, in fact, are like that. And this is a basic misunderstanding that we have in the community. With Scrum, you're not necessarily faster. Yeah, you might deliver what is more important, and then you look as you're faster. But the method per se is not faster. And you'll deliver the cheapest one that you can have. Okay? So that's something that we have to clarify. You do it because you want to be quicker with the relevant thing to the market, but not because it's cheaper or it's faster.
Scrum is simpler and it doesn't require the organization to change that much. So the organization is not that under stress to change as it is in Kanban.
Actually, my experience, I've accompanied Scrum and Kanban projects. Actually, the organization changes initially much more with Scrum than with Kanban. Then whether the organization has a commitment to change fully, I think that doesn't make a difference. But I see a much faster start time with Scrum compared to Kanban. And to apply properly Kanban, you need a much more mature organization. Team first and organization. I see it overall, the transformation work much easier with Scrum than with Kanban. Maybe just my experience.
I had various experiences, teams or organizations starting with Scrum and then moving to Kanban later, or starting with Kanban, then deciding to apply Scrum. So I think it really depends on the discipline of the people in the end and how they will perceive the change.
What Craig Larman believes, and I tend to agree, is on one side you can have a method which is just principles. Okay? So, you know, the basic idea in company is let's measure our process and then start improving based on that. Very simple, nothing really major that we have to do. We have to think and we have to use our brain. Okay? Is that good or is it bad? I don't know. On the other end of the scale, you have...
well, it's a way to do it. I don't know if it's good or bad.
It's a way to do it. I'm just saying, you know, it's a way to do it. On the other hand, on the other end of the scale, you have rules.
Rational unified process.
Rational unified process, that's the example we decided. Okay? Can you transform an organization with rational unified process? Well, sure. The question is how complicated it is, but that's another way of doing it. What Craig Larman believes is that actually Scrum was able to, in some way, achieve a spot in the middle where you have some rules, some kind of a clear rules. You know, you need to have a sprint planning, you need to have a daily Scrum, you need to have a review or retrospective, and tell you a little bit how things are working there. So there is a basic level of rules, but not too much to make it too complicated, like rational unified process, not too principle-based as Kanban is. And he believes that the success of Scrum is due to this nice sweet spot between principles and rules.
Even in Kanban, you can start with a set of minimum rules. I mean, it's not mandatory to start just based on the principles.
Absolutely, but you have to define the rules.
Yes, of course.
While instead in Scrum, you already have those rules, and you can start very easily with Scrum. Whether it's done properly, whether it's done at a mature level, that's a different story. Okay? It doesn't make it simpler. It doesn't make it simpler overall. It just makes it simpler to start because you have some more rules. Exactly like starting with rational, you have rules for everything, so you could start almost immediately. Kanban, you have to apply much more thinking.
Well, it depends again. It depends on the maturity. I mean, okay, we have this tool that is called Scrum, but there is also this tool that is called Kanban. There is also this tool that is called Scrumban.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't give a pledge for one of them, just one of them.
No. I'm not saying that Scrum is better because it's here.
Okay.
I'm saying that Craig Larman's opinion is that most of the success of Scrum is due to the fact that it has this sweet spot between principles and rules. It's a little bit restrictive, but it still allows you to use principles. It's absolutely not an advertisement for Scrum. It's just a possible explanation of the success of the market.
It was just a small observation.
I want to be clear, okay?
Okay.
And the idea is actually large-scale Scrum, LeSS, is actually trying to place itself exactly in the same thing. So in order to allow a little bit some rules, but not too many. Now, if you look at the work of Craig Larman and Pasvodi, they have 2 books already out and one that is coming out. On the first 2, they were very much on the principle side. They're actually very good and very insightful books. The Scaling Lean and Agile Software Development and Practices for Scaling. These are books that I highly recommend because they are full of insights on how to get Agile and scale work. Now they are noticing that it's very difficult for a lot of companies to start just with this principle, and now the idea of large-scale Scrum with LeSS to have some more rules, to shift this a little bit more towards rules. And this is why on this LeSS Work website you can find quite a lot of rules and ideas how to start. Okay, is this the right way of doing it? I leave it up to you to decide, of course. It's one way. I find it very sensible, actually. But of course, it's up to you to decide whether this is good or not. And with this, I would say that's more or less everything that I plan to say. I guess we should have pizza somewhere.
It's just arriving. I
Just
think.
arriving.
Where do you place safe and that
Okay.
scale?
So let me just say, we'll have pizza. So, but we can start with a Q&A and then we can continue afterwards. Safe. Let's have a look a little bit of the scaling world in general. There is the scaling framework coming from Scrum and Safe. So if you look at the various scaling mechanisms, and not all are that much known, apart from LeSS, you have a way of doing scaling from Jeff Sutherland. Scrum, Ken Schwaber has his way of doing, which is called the Nexus. There is from Mike Bell, there is Enterprise Scrum. There are several ways of doing that. And all these methods are kind of related, kind of very similar. They are trying to say, this is Scrum, how can we minimally extend Scrum to work on large scale? Safe instead starts from a totally different paradigm. It's a totally different system where you use Scrum or Kanban at the team level, and then you create some controlling structure on top. For me, the sweet spot for using Safe is, let's imagine we are a totally screwed up organization who can't make a software delivery in less than 1 year. And I know a few of them. Okay? We have a lot of manual testing, a lot of things that we cannot really, that we have to do before we deliver, and therefore we are incapable of doing deliveries in a reasonable amount of time. Then the Safe, there might be a place, a method that at least allows you to deliver regularly. Now, we have to see theory and reality of every method, of Safe and of LeSS. A Safe implemented well, according to how in Leffingwell says that, it should be possible to deliver on demand. Okay, so release on cadence, deliver to the client on demand. I don't know too many Safe implementations, but this typically doesn't happen. So you have a 3-month release, and it's already good if you get a software release every 3 months. I was at a client and delivering a training, that is a pretty big organization, and in the day when I was delivering the training, they had a press release saying, and now finally we say we are able to have in one software delivery every quarter. Hurrah! Okay? Which for any other web company that would be more or less a suicide, having so few releases. So for me, the sweet spot of Safe is an organization that is very big, very chaotic, that can really deliver software in less than 1 year, and their Safe might give some advantages. I have a client who looked at Safe, and they were already delivering every month or so. Then in that case, Safe doesn't really bring you benefits. They already have sprints, they already have Scrum teams, they already have everything. So then I would rather suggest a structure like this. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to have these releases planned on a 3-month basis if you can be more flexible, if you can deliver a much more frequent pace. Okay, that's kind of my attitude. But be aware of one thing: when you talk about scaling agility, the problem becomes much more complex than just Scrum or Kanban at the team level. Therefore, you have quite a lot of constraints to consider. Running out of time.
We are ready with the presentation.
Tell me when I have to stop.
In a couple of minutes, 3
In a
minutes.
couple of minutes. So one more question.
It might be a silly question, but I know that there are a system that was invented at Intel and it's used in a lot of companies, including Google, is OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. I'm not sure if people are familiar with that or has anything to do with Agile or any connection whatsoever or relationship.
It's separating, if I may. Okay, sorry.
If you know what it is, you're welcome.
Sorry.
I have just a very vague idea what that might be. So.
Okay. So it's related to, it's a method of management mainly. It's used more as a method of management. It is related to people and areas of responsibilities. So it can be combined with something like Scrum or Kanban or so, but there are two different systems that can work together.
Performance management.
Yes.
So Agile is more of a low-level execution type system, whereas the other one is more like organizational structure type thing.
Well, I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say this. So many, especially in large organization, you need to, on one way, to evaluate people. And in Agile, we don't have this. We have Agile management, but that's another type of system than Agile in itself. And then we have Agile that can be applied from business, so business agility, until Agile as a way to organize a project through a specific method like Scrum. Agile is more a way of thinking, it's based on principles and values, and then we have specific methods like Scrum that help us to follow these values and principles. So this is why I'm saying that this is a system, and then we have this objectives system that is used by companies as Google
So it's more
to
agnostic.
evaluate.
So,
Sorry?
so OKR is more agnostic, whereas Agile involves a certain set of values.
Yes, yes.
But the values are for development work. How we develop software, how we write software, that is where Agile targets. OKRs is more of how you measure people, how the organization.
So it's more generic
Performance.
type thing.
Yes.
And it doesn't cover the same areas.
Right.
There's a very interesting article about OKRs on Business Insider. Also, they have 2 or 3 video presentation. You might want to check it out. It's very interesting. In my company, we're using OKRs as a form of evaluation, team-wise and personal
Yes.
also. So it's working very well.
And
Yeah.
normally should be related to or derived from the business objectives. So this is the way that it
Yes.
should be created.
However,
Yeah.
keep in mind that if this is one way of doing managing by objectives, then
No, it's a different. No, it's a different system. It's
I don't know what it is.
okay.
But, so we have. He was raising the hand with the time limit, so let's hear his question. Yes, you do. Actually, okay. Actually, this is very important in this structure. How do you get this this coordination going? Well, there is a coordination at the project level, and you do it by having team meetings, the various teams meeting together and discuss. But you still have a problem. How do you do user experience? How do you do front end? How do you do back end? How do you do all the various functions? The community practice are an integral part of this model. Keep in mind this was just a 45-minute presentation. There will be much more to say. So here, it's recommended to have community practice who can transversally go through these groups of people and tackle exactly the topics of how do we harmonize the various practices. The important thing is that the community of practices, they are self-organized as well. Which means in the community of practice of user experience, you could have also a database designer going in there, and that would be perfectly okay. The idea is, on top of that, we want to try to remove specialized roles, because in the end, every expert in reality is a bottleneck. Okay, and in this way, we want to try to have an organization as flexible as possible, where we can assign the work to whoever is free, not to an expert, because that's the only person we can do it. Of course, there are limitations depending on how the people can grow, but community of practice is a way, transversal way to get the people working together and discussing these topics across organization. The important thing, the community of practice discuss and can also decide the actual implementation of the results happens per normal product backlog. Okay, so community of practice aside, but then it's up to the product owners to schedule things. Okay.
And can you provide some examples of how regular they meet, or how much time do they allocate for this kind of activity of sharing knowledge?
it actually depends on what knowledge. I typically see a couple of hours per month is a normal. It's normally a good time. If there are some problems in an area, so for example, I had a client where they had quite a lot of activities at the front end, they had to do quite a lot of harmonization. Then they were meeting something like every 2 weeks actually. Yeah, every 2 weeks we were meeting. So it depends. Community practice among the various area product owners and product owners, that normally one per month, this type of activity is okay. The Scrum Master have some clients where they meet every couple of weeks or every month. That seems to be a good frequency. I had a situation where they had to do some special type of projects, so reviewing certain areas of the code among different teams, different parts of the organization, and there they had longer meetings, they had more discussion. It might happen to them. But let's say start with once per month and then you see.
Thank you, Pierluigi.